Hey, 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 welcome to the first ever film conversation, the first ever movie discussion on ABTG, the new channel. Absolute bullshit to true greatness. This is where we try to figure it out. I have two good friends, two special guests joining me today. Let me just add them to the stream. We've got Steve, aka not Steve, and he took his picture away. But I was gonna say Steve as well, aka not Steve. Anyway, Sahel, PJ, how you guys doing?
Good, how are you? I feel confused with this layout because my face is all squished.
You don't
And I
like
don't
this
know.
layout? You want me to change the layouts? You want me to do
There
this?
you go. That's better.
This is better.
Now I can do this thing here.
Hello to everyone in the comment section. Hello, Robbie. How you doing?
Robbie! I don't know. I got so excited.
It was the best thing ever. Okay, we need to talk about. Steve's back from the dead. We need to talk about Wonder Woman 1984. I have many thoughts. Don't have notes. I didn't organize anything, but I have a lot of
I have
thoughts.
many thoughts too. Okay? I'm here to hijack your show and talk about Stiv.
Oh no!
Sorry.
Look how it started.
I'm sorry.
This is
I haven't
chaos.
even drank. I haven't drank anything.
This is just
like this
madness.
all the time.
It's automatically Starfleet Boy After Dark.
No,
Yeah,
it's the
just
lighting.
it
It's the
always
lighting.
goes there. It always goes there. But this is not Star Trek. You two are my Starfleet peeps, but you're Star Trek peeps, but we're not talking about Star Trek. Okay, so I haven't seen you guys' discussion, the Starfleet Boy After Dark discussion. So head us off, Sohail, with like an opening statement. Did you like this for starters?
I liked it a lot less after I started talking about it last week with PJ and Fathery and Shaka, and I think had he seen it yet, Evan? I'm not sure.
I don't think so.
Anyway, sorry, Siri just launched itself. Um, I liked the movie. I wanted to love it. I was super hype about it. I was super excited about Wonder Woman 84. The trailer made it look like, outstanding. But the actual movie itself was kind of just like there.
What
What's your
about you?
middle rating?
Well, my middle rating is average, which is what I
Yeah,
gave
it's
it
just average.
on my channel. To be honest, but the funny thing is, you say this. That's kind of what I came to as a conclusion in my video. I said it just exists, right? What do you think, PJ?
I think this is going to go down in history as one of these movies that's going to be perceived like how Superman 3, Supergirl, or like even Superman 4, where it's over time people are going to look back and say it's so bad it's good, because there are a lot of really good scenes in the movie. Like there's not that much Wonder Woman, but when we do get her, all those action scenes are great. Steve Trevor and her, when they're on screen, his whole discovery of the future of 1984 is great. But then you get Pedro Pascal, who is just like giving it his complete all, and he's just like so over the top, but in the best way. And I think his villain is going to be remembered as like one of the most, like, even more than Jim Carrey and Tommy Lee Jones and Batman Forever, just like way out there. But like he handles it very well because it's like really schlocky material, I think he's given to work with. And like you actually really look at the lines he has to say, like, and he's great at portraying that like obsessed, unraveled man. And in like any other film with a better film, I think this performance would be like Academy Award worthy. I know maybe stretching, but like, so there's parts the parts of the movie that like keep me interested throughout, even upon second watch. But like I can't look at it and say it's a good movie because there's so much convoluted bullcrap going on that we'll get into, I suppose. But yeah, those are just my general thoughts.
I tend to agree that Pedro Pascal is like, well, for me, he's the thing that just carried the movie. I've seen complaints about like Kristen Wiig, is that her name? Her performance, and I don't really have any. I think everyone did a pretty good job at performing. It's just like the lines that they're given or the characters that they're supposed to be portraying aren't that convincing to some certain extent. Like even Wonder Woman felt a little, I don't know, she felt less Wonder Woman than she was before. She didn't feel as unique a character. She felt like kind of just like generic person, like generic superpowered being, and that's it. Yeah.
There's a quiet dignity to her in the early parts of the film, and then when it gets into the romance, you're like, okay, I'll go along with this. But it's all about, like, I think the whole first scene with her as a little girl learning not to cut corners, not to cheat, or sometimes things just have to work out the way and you have to deal with it. That's life. That lesson kind of plays later on, but you almost need it, like another flashback later in the movie to like cement Wonder Woman's decision to let go and renounce, her wish and whatever. But Gal Gadot, I don't want to like bash her or anything, but it's almost like she's better the less she's given to say. And I'm not saying like she's just good to look at or anything. I'm just saying I don't think she's there as an actress yet, although she is improving. But yeah, even like that whole thing at the end when she's giving that speech, and I don't know how anybody can hear her. I don't know how anybody can hear either one of them, for one thing. But when she's giving that speech, and it's supposed to be emotional, and like I'm not buying it, I don't feel anything. But however, when she says goodbye to Steve, and this is spoilers, right? Obviously.
Oh yeah, this is spoiler discussion. If you guys want the non-spoiler review, well, there's one on the channel. So.
When she's saying goodbye to him and she has to let him go and she runs away from him, that's like the only moment in the entire movie I ever felt anything for a character. So they got me once.
The only moment I felt something. Well, there were two moments. There's one moment where obviously. There's the moments where you realize that Kristen Wiig's character, she has to deal with all of these really horrible people and these horrible men as she,
Can we talk about that?
We can talk. We can get into that, but I just want to talk about the moment that really made me feel something. It's for Pedro Pascal's villain, right? There's this small montage at the end where they show you kind of his childhood, and there's a build-up. They show you that his mother's getting beaten. He can't do anything about it. And for that, I'm not saying I'm fine with mothers getting beaten. I'm just saying at that point the montage began, and so I wasn't feeling anything yet. But then you get they show you that he's poor. He's got the tattered shoes, and then they show you he's kind of like he doesn't have any friends in high school. And then it builds to this moment where he's setting up his little office. And he's got this little thing with the flowers and the what is it, like the donuts or whatever, like the little crackers that he's setting up. And it was so innocent and nice of him and it was kind of like he's struggled all his life, but he's still trying to do good and still trying to open his business and be kind. And that was the moment that I felt a little, something, a little pinch.
Ruben's wrong about the first movie. I think this movie is more of a hot mess than the first movie. At least the first movie is kind of like straightforward. It gets crazy at the end.
I don't think the first one is a hot mess. Maybe it's because it came out in a time where there were many DC hot messes. So maybe it was
a hot mess at the end with Ares. Like Ares was just like a dumb thing, and with all the fire and the shards and like
it's a big laser fight
blah blah blah.
At the end, right?
Just it was just too much. But up until then, it was pretty good, actually. Like, I really enjoyed, the origin stuff in the first movie, and I really enjoyed, like, the romance between Steve and Diana, and everything worked in the first movie pretty well up until the ending. Especially that moment in the trench, I think, is the most powerful moment of that movie, where she's kind of going along with everything. She's like, and then Steve's like, no, this is not how we do it, and all she sees is like suffering and all that stuff, and then she just throws off the furs and
that's arguably the best moment. Like, it's the best action set piece in the first film. I think it's it's just the best. It's the thing that stands out to you the most in the first one. That's the thing I remember. Trench. The trench, and then there's that scene in the little village that follows that, all of the war.
That whole thing was just very emotionally charged and really epic in terms of and I know the movie has a style. It's got that 300 style, everything's really sharp and cut out and looks very comic booky, so it's a little hyper real or whatever. But in this movie, I felt it went way too far with that stuff, and the only moment that kind of gave me that same thrill, sort of, in this movie was the flying sequence, even though I didn't really like that sequence but that's about the only time that I felt that same feeling in this movie. And I agree with PJ. There should have been another flashback to.
Oh wow! You so you guys both think they should have put? I think they should have taken the first one out.
Actually, you know
What
what?
did the first one do for the film? That's the
That's
thing.
a good point.
When you put a flashback like this, it serves two purposes. Generally, it's like we're reminding you where they come from because we have this fantasy element. It's like the Thor movies. You got to show Asgard, that kind of stuff, or Aquaman. Even if you did an Aquaman fully on land, you'd have to show kind of like where he comes from. But the second thing is there's a lesson, which is, and the lesson here is like tell the truth. How does that play into the movie after?
Well, I think it's about. I think they should have put another scene at the end. But if they didn't, they easily could have cut that whole sequence out and just started in 1984. Actually, there was an article recently about how they were considering that, just taking that whole thing out. But it was like, I guess, so expensive they left it in there. And it's like a big IMAX scene too. Like it was supposed to be on the big screen, this big bombastic thing.
I mean, it's pretty good. It's a pretty good.
Oh, by the way, Christopher Collins saw it in IMAX, and he said it was pretty awesome.
Oh, wow.
But the whole thing about the little girl deciding, and you can see like that little girl's really good as young Diana. By the way, before she slides down the thing to take the shortcut to get to her horse. It's all about, like, she has that look like, should I do this? Okay, I'm going to do it, because her ambition overpowers her common sense, and you have to, like, hit that thing. You have to get the smoke signal, so, that the game has rules and ways to verify, like, who's actually winning. So, the fact that she cheats, and, like, I forget her aunt or whatever, her Robin Wright.
Yeah, her aunt.
Robin Wright.
Yeah.
Yeah, she takes her side, and
what's her name? No, Hippolyta is the mom, right?
Yeah,
I
think Hippolyta's her
Greek
mom.
names, aren't they?
Yeah, I forget.
Yeah, it's like I think the lesson for her as a little girl was you can't win just because you want to. You have to follow the rules. It's like
I thought that was kind of dumb too, because what she really does is.
But the whole thing with the wishes. But the whole thing with the wishes is that it's like a shortcut. That's the connection I'm trying to say. Like, it's
wow.
But it's not even like it's not even necessary if you're not gonna kind of punch it up later in like some kind of dramatic moment of a flashback, just of like a minute or something of her aunt or her mother giving her some advice about sometimes you have to let things be. Or some bullshit, you know what I mean? Like anything.
The one thing I want to give credit to Wonder Woman Part 1, whatever you think, if it's a hot mess or whatever, at least like everything that happened was like.
Who thinks Wonder Woman 1 is a hot mess?
Ruben. Who cares about
who
Ruben?
Who said this?
Why
Why are we talking about Wonder Woman 1 being a hot mess?
No, but I just want.
It's actually a good movie. But I think the thing about DC movies is that they have a weak third act. I'm sorry, go ahead, Starfleet.
I just want to say to juxtapose it against this one. If at least in the first one, like everything just kind of happens in this like bubble, right? Like it's totally feasible and it's like on a smaller scale or whatever. Yeah. Here, the entire world goes crazy and starts looting, and it's nuts. And you have all this like we need to talk about that. Planet goes freaking nuts, like the entire planet, and you're telling it's just gonna be so it's all good at the end. Like
we need to talk about that. The moment he starts granting wishes, right? He starts granting wishes, and I'm a little fuzzy as to how like that exactly works, but I'll go with it. It's fine.
It doesn't work, but yeah, go ahead.
It's a magical plastic rock that makes you grant wishes. That's fine. It's a superhero movie, but immediately. Like there's a guy. He has a farm, so he gets cows. In like this, we make a point of showing a comedic scene where a guy has cows, and so I can go on about the specifics about that scene. Like, why is he so invested all of a sudden in these cows? Why does he have to protect them? Like he doesn't own them. He's not going to lose money if he just leaves them, right? But he doesn't want to leave anyway. How does this kind of wish make the world turn into absolute chaos immediately? And I get that there's a lot of people that might wish things like, I want this person to die or whatever. But then that brings up another question. You're telling me not a single person on this planet wished for every human to disappear? Or wished for like...
world peace?
And I don't want to go into racism here, but yeah, world peace or the other way. Or like an entire ethnicity to kind of go away. Or like a continent to just vanish or something. Like, everyone has a crappy wish. Like, everyone has this shit wish, like, oh, I wish that I won the lotto. It's like, dude, you know what I mean?
it's you
Again, it's
but
just they took it to a scale that wasn't necessary.
exactly.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
On top of that, they add on top of all what you just said, the whole the whole resolution of the movie is completely dependent on pretty much every single person renouncing their wish and
Yeah.
watching a TV and hearing Pedro Pascal and Wonder Woman speak softly when there's all kinds of wind and noise around them. Makes none of it at the end makes any sense.
They
And it
put on
completely
little ear
falls apart.
mics just in case, like just when the
And-
scene began, right?
I just want to bring up. Remember Superman 3 when when the walk signs start fighting each other. Remember that? Remember that?
I don't remember it, but
It's that level of absurdity where it's like, okay, this is just bonkers. It's like Superman. You look back at Superman 3 and that how silly it gets at some points, and Wonder Woman 1984 is nowhere as near as bad as Supergirl or like Superman 4, but it has that like schlock quality in like this big budget shell that it's like they really didn't think this through. And you know what? It's almost like this entire movie, Jeff Johns' idea for it and the writing behind it was almost like tailored for an animated movie. I could almost buy everything that happens in this movie if it was animated, like big walls appearing and then turning into dust and like all of this stuff that would cause the world to implode on itself. And they imply that this stone was the cause of the Mayan civilization vanishing. So the price of it is that the world is now going to vanish and basically end unless everybody renounces the wishes. And it's like, come on, give me a break.
yeah, they needed.
well, they
I
invent
think
their own
they
history of
needed.
the Earth as well. They kind of imply that this rock is the downfall of all the civilizations, Rome and the Mayans, whatever. It's like, okay, we'll go with that. That's not what happened, but
They needed to show more of the sentience of, like, I think there was an opportunity when the stone merged with Pedro Pascal to create a new character that was like sentient. The rock, like they needed to
you
give us a
wanted
little
you
more
wanted a DC
exposition.
vision.
I guess
It would have been
they
hilarious if he wished for that and he just turned into the inanimate rock and that was it.
He just
He
like
was screwed.
it's
He's just
true.
like an inanimate rock now.
But also there should have been like
Careful what
honestly
you
like
wish for.
I think the route that should have occurred would have been like a reset, right? Like to go back to like the wish should have been that like it's just now there's like this whole messy world. I don't know, like that's what I hate about this is like there's this whole messy world at the end and then it's Christmas, which was also an afterthought by the way that they wrote later on. think, or, like,
you know
whatever.
what? When we saw Christmas, I was like, is this why they released it on the 25th? Did they think Wonder Woman 1984 is going to become the next Christmas classic? Like the whole Die Hard thing. It's not a Christmas movie. Oh yes, it is because it takes place at Christmas. I was thinking, is this what they wanted to do with Wonder Woman? Like everyone's going to watch Wonder Woman 1984 for Christmas now.
Well, it's
I mean, it's on my Christmas list in the circular file cabinet called the trash can.
No. Oh
apparently that was added on. That was a changed ending, or
That-
like a tacked on part that they put on later on.
I have to give credit though to both Chris Pine and Gal Gadot because I would watch this movie again, honestly, just because of them. Like they're phenomenal
I would
together.
watch it for Pedro
And
Pascal.
Pedro Pascal, like at first I was like really I love him as an actor too, but even he I think like just kind of ends up being a very flat character for me, and I think again like I do appreciate Pedro Pascal as a performer, but I do think that like he was underserved and so his performance actually doesn't come across that great for me. Like he's not memorable. Kristen Wiig I'll give an honorary mention to just because she tried really hard and I thought she pulled off something that was totally expected. I always associate her with being really silly and comedic and funny, and although there were moments of that, I did feel like she was playing like a character as good as she, like there was some seriousness and some depth to it. Although I will say that someone pointed this out on Twitter and like, yeah, I am kind of sick of the nerdy glasses and the being picked on, that same trope over and over again, this like awkward idiot
it's
who
a
gets
it's
like
a Hollywood
who
trope.
gets powers and all of a sudden and then they're bad because
It's like the
they're
hillbilly
trying to
accent
get back at
for comedic
yeah
value, right?
but like they're
it's the
bad all of
Hollywood.
a sudden. Like she like goes from like nerdy and being picked on and then she has no empathy. Like all of a sudden she just wants to like freaking kill everyone.
But that's what
like,
she lost in her wish, though. she lost her empathy and her sympatheticness and her niceness in the wish. That's what she lost when she wanted to become kind of like assertive and dominant in that respect. So I think that
I wish that was
fine.
clearer in the movie. I think you just put something into it that I didn't
Like
see.
that is a
Maybe I have to
huge
watch it
problem
again.
with the film. Nothing is very clear because at the end, Wonder Woman is like, "I renounce my wish." It's like, where was the fine print that said you have to speak the words, "I renounce my wish"? Do you not have to speak the words? You just have to think it. Like, where are the rules? There have to be kind of some pre-established, at least a semblance of rules that exist in these fictional universes that they create. And I know it's all magical and fantasy but still we need to have something to go on. Like at the end it's just kind of like what I assume everyone, or maybe is it because so many people renounced their wish that other people just thought, oh, the wish probably don't work anymore, so because they thought that the wishes don't work anymore, then
The
the
very
belief of it
the very
disappears.
the very fact that so many people around the world would be looking at the TV and then believing this crazy man on it, and then saying, "Well, he might be onto something," and then say, "I wish blah blah blah," and it's like that takes a suspension
Well,
of disbelief,
you-
dude.
The other
Like,
thing that goes nowhere.
you
too
might
much.
underestimate the stupidity of a lot of people on the planet, though.
There also was this other thing about him bleeding every time he was using his powers, and that never came to fruition. Did you guys see something that came to fruition from that? Like
He got black veins, didn't he? He went Sith.
his ears were bleeding. His
Oh,
like,
that's no, yeah.
nose,
His nose was bleeding, that kind of stuff.
but
When he
nothing
be-
really happened from
He was
that,
just in
right?
pain. His organ, like his internal organs, or his basic
And
his general health was
was in
declining.
decline, and he was supposed to touch people, or people were supposed to touch for him, and then ask for a wish. And then how is the satellite, which doesn't really actually come in contact with him? I thought that was a weak.
Well, his son doesn't even
explanation.
touch him. His son touches his pants. When his son does the wish, he wishes for his father to. Or his son touches his pants. He touches his lap and says, "I wish for
In
you
England,
to
pants
become."
is underwear. That's why I'm laughing. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, sorry. No, his son doesn't even touch his hands. 'Cause
trousers.
Pedro Pascal is touching people's, hands, but his son
There's-
doesn't do that. His son touches just his clothes and says, "I
Right.
wish for you," and he says, "Oh, it's very
Well, tech-
kind."
I
And it's
agree
like
that
contact.
that's his body, but yeah,
Oh,
it's just
so that counts as
contact,
contact?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
but
it does,
but,
I
but
think so.
you know the whole idea of he finds out. Well, by the way, that was Ronald Reagan. By the way, the shittiest Ronald Reagan I've ever seen in my life in any movie.
I had
Oh
to
my
look it
God.
up.
Wait, that was supposed to be Ronald Reagan?
I thought
Oh,
I didn't
my,
know.
I thought my history was false because when we were watching it with the wife, I was like, "I don't. Is that which president is that?" And I went to look it up and was like, "Oh, okay." Anyway, so yeah.
Yeah, and that whole thing with the president was absurd. But the fact that he Pedro Pascal, it's everything's built on extraordinary conveniences and like crazy circumstances.
There are satellites appearing every single second. It felt so. I just watched the G.I. Joes. I'm sorry. And the G.I. Joe movies are ridiculous. But I got a lot of G.I. Joe Retaliation vibes from that. Because in G.I. Joe Retaliation, there's like a fake
Exactly.
president. And they're doing all of these absurd things like, now I'm going to launch all the missiles at once on the planet. And you're like, how is this Wonder Woman film feeling like that? How is the vibe that I'm getting resembling that film?
It's a mess. But I do like when Wonder Woman like goes into the White House and she does her thing, and the whole thing that they do in movies, like they did it in Superman 2, they did it in Spider-Man 2, where the hero starts losing their powers and becomes weaker. I think they did it in Hellboy the Golden Army as well. But it's like those things work whenever she's on screen doing her thing, but everything leading up to that is always like it almost looks like an SNL sketch because the Oval Office itself, the president's office doesn't even look right, and he doesn't look right. He doesn't act right, and then his wishes is like, well, if we just had more nukes, and it's like weird, and then he just happens to be in the Oval Office when he sees this. Oh, you have this satellite stuff. Oh, it touches people through whatever. Oh, well, that's going to work.
Touches his wording.
Because magic rules. And I can understand magic in these movies, man. But you got to give me some basis, like, you got to give me something to go by. And, like, another thing, Diana's, like, making invisible planes now, all of a sudden. She's like, I did this one thing 50 years ago with a coffee cup. Let me do it to a jet all of a sudden in a matter of a couple of seconds. And why are they stealing a plane? And how's the plane all fueled up? And did they fly that whole thing to Cairo? I don't understand transitions between certain scenes. Or
Okay,
like, I
I'm
don't
gonna
know
be honest.
what's
I'm gonna
going
be
on.
honest with you. That is the least of my issue. The least of my issues is how they flew the plane from one end to the other. I would rather have that than the crappy Pitbull song montage that we got in Aquaman. To be honest, so I think
Pitbull?
that, yeah, he sings like Africa.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, I would rather have this kind of transition. I wanted to talk about Kristen Wiig for a bit, and her whole character. If you guys, okay,
Before
so
you move on to her, there's a lot of stuff PJ said that I need to just
oh well, go ahead, bounce off that.
unpack. Now I get the nuclear thing because Reagan was obsessed, the Cold War with the whole
But he was
so
too
I can
cartoony, is what I mean. I understand.
Yeah,
the
no,
character,
I didn't
but
even
yeah.
understand that was Reagan.
It's-
First of all,
it's-
I
it's-
thought like
It's a
someone who
child
told
vision
me
of him,
someone
right?
told me it was like like whatever.
I did. I
alternate
was the
Earth.
guy.
Oh yeah,
You
that's
were
who-
drunk at
yeah.
the time, so it's
Sorry,
okay.
I was drunk at the time, but that's what I believed, and I was like, oh, I like that better. Actually,
That's
I like
what-
the whole movie better if it's in that other time period or whatever, and not
Yeah.
like set in like the correct time period. But the other thing I just wanted to say was that like that was one of the again the only reason I like that whole scene with the invisible jet was because of them, like because of Chris Pine and Gal Gadot. They work really well together. It's just a shame they had like this really shitty movie surrounding them because they could have been really great because I thought their chemistry was awesome.
Yeah, it's kind of the plot doesn't help any of these actors. Okay, so Kristen Wiig. And I'm gonna compare this. There's a superhero movie that everyone shits on all the time, The Amazing Spider-Man 2. All right. And I don't recall it enough to say that it's really that bad or as bad as people say. But what I do remember is Jamie Foxx he's essentially the same character as Kristen Wiig. He's like nerdy with the glasses and he gets picked on and no one likes him. But I remember specifically feeling kind of pain and I feel bad for him in that film. And so when the change works, like when the change arrives and when he becomes what does he become?
Electro.
Electro, right? He turns blue. He becomes like this evil kind of electric villain, and I bought that a lot more. And I felt like they were trying to go for that in this film, but they didn't quite succeed. And I don't know if it's the way it was written. I don't know if it was her performance. I don't feel like it. I feel like it was like the way it was written. There weren't enough scenes, I think, showing that people, because the one moment someone's really mean to her in the office, like she tries to talk to someone and someone like it felt like these people, I don't even know how to say this, it felt very manufactured, right?
Yeah.
Like the guys that were mean to her in the office, they didn't feel like that was their real character, because that's not how they acted with other people, and it was
Exactly.
unjustified that they would act like that towards her.
It's a tired trope because I watched Batman Returns yesterday, and I was watching Michelle Pfeiffer, her transition in that movie. I'm like, oh my god, it's like Wonder Woman 1984. It's like the same, and just like Jamie Foxx.
I love Michelle Pfeiffer's transformation, if I'm honest.
Well, it was still
Yeah,
not
that's-
overdone when that movie came
that-
out. It was kind of
Yeah,
it was
Tim
like,
Burton is
yeah.
a master at that, like that gothic, like the whole thing where
Turning crazy.
turning crazy and making the suit. Like I buy into that whole world, like the way that's done.
As ridiculous as the suit looks.
But yeah, it's a highly stylized film, and you have to take it as that. But in here, I find they give her that scene where she's nice to the homeless guy and stuff like that. They dehumanize her a bit, but they don't do enough of that, I don't think. And yeah, it's that whole cliche of, she was like in her I think she's in her late 40s, Kristen Wiig, and
What?
she looks damn good. And you know what? Like, she's not like model beautiful like you would think, but I think Kristen Wiig is actually a very attractive woman. She's always been, right?
Yeah.
And it's that whole thing where
She's 47.
a clearly attractive woman all has glasses on. She's ugly. I hate that shit. I absolutely hate it because remember, She's All That, absolutely hottest, literally the hottest girl in that high school was the most hated nerd, but all she had to do was take off her glasses and let her hair down, and people saw, oh yeah, you're actually the hottest girl in school. I didn't know
Yeah,
this.
Hollywood,
it's
yo.
ridiculous.
But
Yeah.
can I just talk about this very well cast small role they have, and it's of the creep who harasses her, walking home, and Diana kicks him. But then there's the later scene where he shows up again.
Oh, she beats him up the second
And
time.
what a great job they did of casting the most revolting piece of garbage. Like, I really, like, when I see this guy, and when I saw him 2 times on screen, I, like, really hated him. And I the brutality of how she deals with him the second time, I don't quite agree with. I think she was, like, going too far, but then again, you got to show, like, she's changing. But at the same time, I was like, yeah, I hope she kills him.
Well,
I hope she kills him.
okay, I am not one to like defend vigilantes and one to go against, like the justice system and what have you. I don't want to be that guy that says, yes, we need to kill people,
But
but
vote
like,
for Harvey Dent.
but like, be very honest with yourself. If you have to deal with this kind of shit or this kind of dude, and then all of a sudden you have the power to beat him up, I'm pretty surprised she managed to stop herself. Because when I get angry, I get angry, and I'm pretty convinced that a lot of us would have just killed the dude. And she doesn't. She kind of stops. She pulls back, and so at that moment, she still has a lot of that very deep niceness that she has inside of her.
No, she
there's
doesn't
two
have any
things-
deep niceness. Because
there's
that
two
homeless
things-
guy looks at her like, you crazy now.
Yeah, it's true. There's two.
Oh, the
there's
establishing
these two-
reaction shot.
She only
Sorry.
stops because she doesn't want to. She wants to save her trouble for someone else. But there's 2 things in the comments I want to point out. One, normally Ruben's always on the extreme end of arguments, so it's hard to like actually have a conversation with him about anything because he's like, there's no like
What comment are you looking at? Should I
I'm
bring
just
it up?
all of his don't even
All
don't
of the
even
comments,
yeah,
all of
all the
them.
comments like they're just like wow. But he does have a point that this movie feels like they popped in a list of things and hit generate and then a fucking script generated and they didn't care to proofread it to see that it makes any sense because it does feel that way. So I'll give them
They'll
kudos
reveal this in three months' time. First movie generated by AI.
by AI. It's true. And then the other thing is Robbie's correct that that it did start with Superman with the glasses are a perfect disguise, which is the most ridiculous thing ever. You guys would recognize me without my
I
glasses.
buy
right?
that though. I buy that in the context of like the superhero
Oh, you're back.
comic booky thing. I buy that. It's fine. You know what I mean? I'm fine with that. You put on glasses, you're a different person. Or at least I buy it for like Superman.
One thing I gotta say, in the trailers, the cheetah fight at the end, I thought that was gonna be like god awful, and I suppose because my expectations were so low for that fight, that I actually didn't mind it at the end, and I didn't mind the CG so much. But I appreciated the fact that when they did close-ups of Kristen Wiig, it was like actual practical makeup, and she was in a suit and all that at certain shots. But the golden armor, like she can control the wings and stuff. I was like, come on, really? How's that working?
That I was looking forward to the golden armor. See, that stuff you can explain away because it's all made by the gods, so
It's
to
magic,
speak, right?
magic.
Like it
Yeah,
is
that
magical.
is magical.
Like so that stuff's okay, but like, I really like that. I think it's
How did she get them? I'm vague on this. I feel like she learned how to fly, she started flying, and then she has an armor on.
so. She must have gone back. She was on her way to like this thing, and she must have gone back and gotten the
remembered.
suit because there's
like when you forget
there's
your
no
keys or
transition.
something.
Again, there's no transition. Like
Oh my
what
god,
PJ was talking about
this
earlier.
is the editing of like Suicide
There's,
Squad
like-
level editing, right? In Suicide Squad, Captain Boomerang leaves, and then they have like a badass scene where everyone comes back and Captain Boomerang is back. But he wasn't told that he had to come back and that the team reassembled. He just came back. Anyway, this is the same thing. She flies toward the villain, Pedro Pascal, and then stops, goes home, gets the armor, and then flies there again.
Yeah, and when she defeats Cheetah, when she goes in the room and tries to stop Pedro Pascal, who's like all of a sudden he's like cured now. He's all like looking healthy and stuff. I don't know why. I'm not sure why that happened.
Oh well, he wished to have health and like good organs and what have you back.
Okay. I missed that part. But
He talks about it on the plane. He says,
But,
"I'm gonna wish my organs back to health."
But I love how Wonder Woman is stopped by the power of wind. Like she's
Well,
on the
it's
ground.
magical
And
wind.
it's magical wind.
It's special.
fucked
It's
up.
special Pedro Pascal wins. You can't anyway.
Are we gonna? Can we? When we
Okay,
talk
we-
about Steve, there's a,
Yeah.
there's a whole
Here we
discussion
go.
we have to have
Here
about
we
that.
go. We have to have a discussion about Steve Rogers. Oh no, sorry, Steve Trevor. Steve Trevor. Chris Pine, aka everybody loves Chris Pine. We got to bring him back. So I was very frustrated that they brought him back.
Why is Paramount sitting on Chris Pine, man? Come on, we need another Star Trek movie with this guy.
Because I don't want to pay him. Pay the guy. Just
It's
throw
pay
money
the
at
guy.
him.
Just
Throw money at him and Chris Hemsworth. Pay them everything
Make-
they want.
Oh no,
He's gone. He's
PJ
disappeared.
just- he's just gone. Make one less episode. I would sacrifice one episode of Star Trek Discovery, one episode of Star Trek
Picard?
Lower Decks, and one episode of Strange New Worlds to pay Chris, and one episode of Short Treks
He's
to
back.
pay Chris Pine.
I don't know what I did then.
It's okay.
Stop it!
I
Stop
ju-
it! Stop it with your Star Trek! Stop it with your Star Trekness. Yes,
I was
we
just
want
saying
Chris Pine.
I would pay everything except
Yes.
Picard. Picard needs many episodes,
Oh
so
my
I
God.
wouldn't sacrifice that.
Okay, I've got opening thoughts, and then we can build off this. Everyone's disappeared. I'm alone now. I really do feel like they brought him back for no reason, and it kind of undercuts, I think, what happened. Like the first film had his very impactful, very meaningful death, and it was a tragic event, a tragic moment that Wonder Woman had to get over, and I liked how it was, and I feel like it undercuts that to bring back the character right away. And I don't feel this is not just for Wonder Woman. Like I don't like the fact that Black Widow is going to have Iron Man in it. And I know it happens before the events of Endgame, but I don't like the fact they kill a character and
What
bring
did
him
you just
back.
say?
Yes, Black
Iron
Widow
Man?
will be in Black Widow.
Who said this?
Well, not Iron Man, but Tony Stark,
How? What?
because Black Widow happens way before all that.
Yeah, but who confirmed? Did they confirm that Robert Downey Jr. was going to be in it?
Yeah,
Oh, geez, I've never heard of this.
and I don't like that at all.
Oh God,
Oh,
no!
the
This is not.
French.
This is not real.
He's
Can I-
angry.
can I
He's gonna
just
go and
say-
look it up.
Can I just
Go
say
ahead.
something to riff off of what you were saying?
Tell us about
Uh,
Chris. Well, I love Chris Pine though.
I actually loved that they established that Diana has never loved anyone else except Steve, and being that she's like practically immortal, maybe she is immortal, but she can live a long life. It's even more poignant that it's like now 1984 and she still hasn't like been with another dude, right? Like, so that was all really great.
It's
and
true love.
everything. It is true love. Yeah, it's true love.
Tomboy.
I loved all of that. I loved the magic behind Steve returning. I didn't love that he possessed some other dude's body, and I don't know if we want to touch on that.
We can.
but
It's a bit
yeah,
bizarre. I didn't think
It is
about
a
it
bit
in the
bizarre.
moment. Actually,
it is a bit bizarre because it's like her wish already sacrifices her powers, but it also sacrifices some random dude. So I don't understand. I didn't understand that. I don't know why.
Is
it
that
couldn't
what the
just-
final scene that they added on was for? Because in that final scene, it seems like she's going to start dating this guy.
Yeah, she definitely looks like.
So
she's
did she?
interested in him.
So did falling in love with a half Chris Pine, half new guy help her transition into dating new people? Is that?
I don't know if that's the message. Then it's a little weird. But what I will say is that, like, in the first movie, as you said, Steve's sacrifice is really poignant, and even though it's messed up with the whole Ares nonsense, it's still really a great moment, and it imbues Wonder Woman with the love of humanity that she didn't have at that point, where she was like looking for that. Like, Steve's sacrifice is what kind of like makes her devoted to serving humanity and protecting humanity. And so in this movie, his second sacrifice was hollow, like you said. Like, it didn't really
Well, it
do
was her
anything.
sacrifice. It wasn't his this time around.
But he's the one who's encouraging her. Like, the whole time he's like telling her, like, you know what you have to do.
Kill
like,
me. Kill
yeah,
me.
yeah, you have to let me go or whatever, you know, this whole thing. And again, it's all poignant.
Is this
and
why The
everything.
Exorcist?
Had it been
Well, I
had
mean,
it been that he, like, maybe, you know, again, like, maybe Steve was an anomaly. Maybe the Wish Stone,
Yeah,
did
maybe the Wish
something.
Stone is fucked up and evil. Did you ever think of that?
Maybe
Because
the
this
Wish
is the
Stone
thing.
works differently on demigods.
Whoever made it was, it's an evil spirit or something
Yeah.
magical like that. But you have a stone which she wishes unintentionally in her head. You don't even hear her wish it. You just assume she did in her mind.
Well, it's her strongest wish. It's the thing that she wishes every
Yeah.
day, all day. I'm assuming. This is her true love.
But here's what the wishing stone did. I suppose this is the whole thing about the price being paid. That the wishing stone's like, okay, I'm not gonna actually bring Steve Trevor back, like either as a reanimated corpse, which wouldn't work, but like just magically just bring him back like the actual guy before he died. Instead, I'm gonna hijack a random dude's life, possibly ruin his life or disrupt his life greatly for a number of weeks.
Well, he wasn't at work, yeah, so he lost his job.
Yeah, and then like have this dead guy possess him, and have Diana just buy into it in a matter of seconds, without any hesitation. And the whole trope is, she sees him, as she sees the real Trevor. So she had this random dude come up to her, good looking dude. So I suppose like she could have hooked up with him anyway. Like didn't even have to be Steve Trevor, but it could have been a whole new character. But it's like
I would have really enjoyed
see
a new
you.
character, even though I loved Chris Pine. But yeah.
the audience is like, but that's not him. That's a possessed man, and she sleeps with him. And like, what when this guy when the wish is renounced, what happened to this guy? Did this guy need therapy now? Like, did he have a
He was
blackout?
fine.
Does he need to see
I
doctors?
honestly don't
Christmas.
think he knows what happened. The only person that knows is Diana, which poses a problem because if she starts dating him later on,
I'm not talking about him remembering anything. I'm talking about him wondering what the fuck happened to me for 2 weeks.
Oh yeah, isn't
Which-
that much
which-
time? By the way, isn't it
which-
only like
And
days?
why is there a used condom in the bin?
Wh-
I don't
Which
think
Brit?
they-
No, they didn't. They didn't shoot that. They didn't film that. I see what you mean.
But they did have
which-
sex. It is heavily implied that they did make love.
Which brings us to what I was talking about with rules earlier on. Because okay, there's a whole bunch of things that happen, and moving away from Steve just for a second, there's missiles that are launched, and there's a wall that climbs up, etc. When the wall disappears, it just disappears, and everything goes back to normal. But when the missile blows up, it doesn't. It's like some smoke gets pulled back into the chimneys from whence it came, but then some missiles blow up. It's like some things are rewinded in some sort of temporal loop, but other things just implode where the hell they are. People just come back to life or
It's called
reanimated.
bad storytelling.
Well, and I don't know if this was like, if it was like every scene was dealt with by some sort like they told the visual effects teams to like just make it fix itself, but they didn't give any indications as to how it should be fixed. And so every VFX artist went off and did their own little segment, their own little scene, and said, "I'm gonna make the missiles explode. Oh, I'm gonna make the smoke go back in." You know what I mean? That's probably a lot quicker to do. Etc. I don't know. It's like, and so this comes down to like Steve in the body of random man, Christmas man from the end of the film.
Yeah.
Is that rewinded? Did time go back for him? When
No,
Ush-
nothing.
He says he feels like he's. I gotta watch the. I might have to watch the movie again just to.
He seems a bit
clarify,
lost.
But I don't really
troubled.
want to.
He's just like, oh, something happened.
But what happened? I couldn't hear you.
What?
You went on mute.
Me? No, you went
Is it
on
me
mute.
or
sir.
you guys?
I don't know.
I'm on mute.
No, no one's on
we
mute.
can hear you. We can
We can
hear
hear
you.
you. We can hear you.
Sorry, guys. Technical.
Finish your thought. Why is he going on mute again?
Oh my goodness, he's ridiculous.
Is he okay?
Probably not.
He can't
He's-
even
he's-
hear. I don't think he can hear us.
He's caught in a time causality loop. See, this is what happens. He can't hear us.
Yeah, but everything.
Go ahead.
There is a huge continuity issue with this movie as to she's been Wonder Woman for a year before the movie even picks up at the mall scene. By the way, I like the fact that the other robbers were concerned about the little girl. They could have very easily been like, yeah, throw her off. Yeah, we're bad guys. But no, they were like, fuck, dude, what are you doing? Why are you doing that?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about the mall scene as well. We'll get back to Zahel's thoughts on Steve later on. The mall scene was just so cringe. Oh my goodness, I hated that, all of it. And I don't understand why the guy resorted to picking up a child immediately. And I guess it's because like they're not very smart robbers. Um,
Well, that guy in particular was like really scared of going back to jail,
like
and
this is gonna help in any way.
he seemed more of a like burned out than the other dudes. That's why the other dudes were like, "Dude, what are you doing? Like this is too much." And somebody pointed out that, those bad guys could have taken that opportunity to completely run away, but they stayed to try to talk him down, and that's like a little touch that I actually like in that scene. But yeah, it's weird tonally because you have that epic scene in Themyscira, and then it cuts to like this kind of cheesy 80s superhero scene, and she does this thing now with the lasso where it's like she's doing like Spider-Man kind of things with it. By the way, I gotta point out, remember in Cairo when she grabs the kids and she rolls on the ground?
Mm.
I had to look at that a couple of times because it's only a brief couple of seconds shot, not even a second maybe, but you can see it's like two dummies
Yeah.
attached to the stunt person.
Wife noticed that on the first watch. We didn't even replay it. She was just like, "Oh, those were dummies." Like, "Oh, really?" Yeah, she goes, "Yeah, those were clearly
No,
fake."
I rewound and paused it just to look like at the detail of it. I'm like, but it's I appreciate kind of those old school tricks. Like you could very easily did some shoddy CG instead, but yeah.
Well, yeah. That whole desert scene, by the way, I didn't see. When it began, I was thinking, okay, oh, I was thinking what they want to do is they want to recreate the war segment from the first one. This is their attempt to kind of recapture that magic that we got from the initial kind of like a war battle in the trenches. But
Yeah.
this was it was not good. I didn't like it. I don't know. I didn't feel like the
I thought it was okay up to the point when she jumps really high in the air, and it's like it's a long glorious shot of just showing her like descend, and then she lands on the truck in front of her, the other way around. I'm like, I'm sorry, there wasn't even an attempt to spin around in that whole, and then it's like, boom, it's like it's just wrong. It would have been cool if she landed the other way and then flipped around. You know what I mean? Something like that. But I found that in terms of action direction, I think the first one was a little more precise, like the No Man's Land stuff, and the parts where like she's running through the battered city and like going all over the place. In this, the action scenes I thought were serviceable, but I think it's kind of sad that the Cairo motorcade scene is like the Wonder Woman climax. Although I did like another scene when Cheetah kicks her ass in the White House.
Yeah, honestly, I think the White House scene is a bit because I did not like the final big CG fight at the end that happened all at night. I thought that was just hideous. But to be honest, by that point, I was no longer invested in the film. I was just kind of sitting there,
I didn't.
waiting for it to end.
I know
at
what
that
you
point.
mean about how it looks, and it's like they're trying to hide the CG, aren't they, with the low lighting?
Yeah, well, yeah, that's kind of like this old. I feel like it's an old thing where you put low lighting, and sometimes you even add rain to everything, stormy weather, that kind of stuff. And this is what they used to do, like in the 2000s, when CG became a big thing. Everyone was using it everywhere, but it all looked crap.
Yeah.
So you just kind of hide it.
I like most of that scene up until the point when Cheetah's she has the wings around her and Cheetah's slashing the wings and like pretty easily breaking them off. I'm like, it needs a little bit more effort than that because they showed a flashback earlier of how powerful Astera, I think her name is. You find her in the post-credit scene later, played by the original Wonder Woman. She's in that golden armor in the flashback, and she's protected from like a whole freaking army. So I mean, come on.
All right. Well, we're gonna wait till he comes back. I think he has like technical difficulties or something. God knows what's happening to him.
Trevor is inside with us. had to say that.
You had to say that. Honestly, I shit on this movie quite a bit, but I don't think it's the worst thing that's ever been released. Oh, he's back. I really don't think it's as bad as people say. Hello, are you back? Are things working?
Yeah, I don't know what the hell happened to my technology. I had to
Well,
restart the whole computer.
you were in a temporal causality. You were gonna say
Whatever.
something about Steve.
What was I starting to say? I can't remember.
I don't know what we were saying about Steve. I don't know.
Well, just that I guess I was gonna say that like I wish there had been maybe something where Steve came back, but he was competing with this other suitor, and at the end, Steve decided. You know what I mean? Like to help Diana kind of move on. Like maybe Steve somehow is, or Steve could have been someone that only she saw. Like I don't mind. I know that's been done too, but like what if she saw the ghost of Steve, and then there was this guy, and like she, he helps her to let go of him and connect with her. I know that's the movie Ghost basically, but you know what I mean? Like it was just like it was a bizarre choice.
She's physically seeing this strange dude.
As
And
Steve.
she's like,
It might as well
but
be
she's
the same
like,
thing.
you're as good looking as Chris Pine, so I'll go with it.
I
That's basically how it
I
works.
think she kind of recognizes like the way he moves and the way he talks, and so because Chris Pine is doing things, I think I don't know. I don't know how to explain
What
this.
if Trevor went to eat shrimp and his body is allergic? It's true. It's true.
Things with that. Well, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to explain this, but anyway, I don't think the movie is as bad as it'll go. Like I think this is one of the movies that will go down as, oh my goodness, do you remember how shit Wonder Woman was? But it really isn't that bad. It's just very disappointing. A sequel to, I think, arguably the best DCEU film that there is, Wonder Woman.
It's a silly, it's a fun, silly movie at times, but
Yeah, I
I
can't
just
think
don't
of
think it
another-
works as a sequel to.
Why does
what I
DC
think the
suck so
first one.
bad? At, like,
The big question.
like-
But they have a
Making
problem
these-
with third acts. The DC movies, like I find a lot of them, like I like Suicide Squad right up until the last parts of it. Which
do the
are,
Christopher Nolan Batmans count as DC?
No, I'm talking about
No.
DCEU, like Man of Steel.
Extended universe.
A lot of Man
Oh,
of
gotcha.
Steel works, and then the end gets really sloppy. What's another one?
The
Wonder Woman 1 is a great
Justice
movie, and then
League.
the third act is a little bit schlocky. And then this whole movie is like too much of a third act in
So-
terms of like shitty
This is too
DCU
long
third
as
acts.
well. This film should not have been 2.5 hours. Like every single scene is just that bit too long. It's dragged out, and I think they're trying to build up characters or something for like a long portion of it. That like in the beginning, right
They
after.
do- They
Ruben
do
has
spend a
another
lot of
good
time
point.
with Pedro Pascal, almost more than they do with Gal Gadot.
Yeah. Ruben has another good point. There was a time when a movie you spent a lot of money on it, everything was it was almost gonna be like for sure a hit. And now it's true, most blockbuster films these days, high spend films are lost in like they're forgotten like a few weeks later, like no one really cares. They're ready to move on to the next thing. And unlike Jurassic Park, which to this day is still like watched over and over again, and things like that. It's like not every movie has to cost like $500 million to make. You know what I
Well,
mean? Like it, because unfortunately, not every movie deserves a $500 million budget. I don't know what the budget for Wonder Woman was. But you know what I mean? Like,
This is 200, I think, wasn't it?
yeah, that's still too much. This movie should have been given $100 million.
It's a great
like-
point that you make about how they assumed that this was going to come out in a time when theaters would be open and they would make their money back plus more. It was almost guaranteed if the thing hadn't happened. But and I think part of that hubris is like, okay, we'll do whatever you want on the second one to Patty Jenkins, and Patty Jenkins is like, okay, and then it's almost like too much at the end, and like there's like too much going on. And Sean made a good point earlier about how it's good to see Chris Pine back, and those scenes with them are great, but it's like falling back on the first movie, what made that great, to prop up this movie, and it kind of does take away from her loss. And I mean, she's a beautiful woman who's been moping around for 65 years. I'm sure she's had other loves and relationships. I mean, that's the whole thing with Wonder Woman. Like, you see that she had an involvement in World War II even. So she's been Wonder Woman from time to time over the years. You think she would have had other, like, it's 65 years, dude. 66 years.
I'm fine with that in the sense that, like, we can't mope around for 65 years in the sense that would probably be dead by the end of those 65 years anyway. You know what I mean?
I moped for someone for 6 years. I mean, I still.
And
date people
that is a
who
very
did
long
it.
time.
But that's
like,
that's the
short
point.
lifespans that we
Her
have.
being immortal is like, it's even way longer.
No,
I don't know the word, like pine over pine.
I think it's even less. I think she could mope for like a century or 2 centuries over One Love, because she can mope for all eternity if she wants. You know what I mean? So I'm fine with that though. I'm fine with her not finding anyone. It's just, it was strange to bring him back. And don't get me wrong, I love Chris Pine looking at a trash can thinking it's art. I think like the comedy of a lot of those scenes worked. Though I didn't feel as much the 80s vibe as I think they wanted to. Like,
I'm glad you brought that up.
when you watch
It didn't
Strange,
feel like a movie set in the 80s
Yeah.
really that much. Like, in fact, since many of those fashions are coming back into style, I actually just
oh, that's
forgot
amazing
it
that
was
you
in-
mentioned that. So I don't notice these kind of things, but Wife on the Tube was saying throughout the entire movie, she said that Wonder Woman, like Gal Gadot's character, when she's not Wonder Woman, she was wearing contemporary clothes, like clothes that are. She said to me, and I quote, "Those don't look like 80s clothes. They look like clothes that were made and designed today to resemble the 80s." And that's like a general vibe that she got throughout the entire film. And so it didn't feel as much 80s as like when you look at something like Stranger Things, so things that really bank on that kind of 80s vibe, right?
Yeah, like the mall stuff in Stranger Things looks much more convincing than the mall in this one. And it's all just generic. And Father made a point about how they seem to like do something with the color. I don't notice, but this stuff.
It was a little oversaturated.
Yeah.
Also, just her like
Mm.
landings were like super soft.
Yeah,
like
it's
like it was really weird and floaty, her landings. So it's cool. I didn't know Wonder Woman could fly in the comic books. I had no idea she had that same
Some iterations.
thing. Yeah.
I think most post 52 is like fly stuff.
I think it's actually pretty much established that in the Justice League, like the only superhero that's weaker than Superman is Batman. Like everyone else is just way stronger than Superman. Like Wonder
Wait,
Woman is more
everyone's
powerful.
stronger than
Yeah.
Superman? Like
The only
Wonder
one-
Woman's stronger than Superman? I thought
Yeah,
Superman was the most
Yeah,
powerful
that's
character.
what we tend to go to. But from power
Wow.
standpoint, I think from what I understand, like the Flash is more powerful. Wonder Woman is more powerful in the comic books, right? Aquaman is more powerful, and I think even Cyborg, I think, is more powerful than Superman.
What? I've never heard this.
Because not only just in like raw strength, brute strength, and what have you, it's like they all like Flash, when he hits you, he can use like his special abilities to hype up, like make it hypersonic or whatever it is, to hit you with like the speed of a million friggin' supernova suns or whatever it is, and so it just knocks you out of existence, and that's kind of how they use it. Aquaman can of course control like and command creatures of the sea and stuff like that. So Superman turns out to be pretty weak comparatively in the grand scheme of things. But then comic books, they always reset their own stories. And
What did you see that like on like a YouTube video or something? Because I've never. I'm just kidding.
no, it's like when you read up about these comic book characters, and when you read up
Ten
about
facts you didn't know about
10 facts
Superman's
you didn't
strength.
but he's Henry Cavill, so he wins, right? He's handsome.
There's a Suicide Squad versus the Justice League video game or something, and somebody said, yeah, Suicide Squad loses. You don't go up against all of these superpowered people, including Superman, who, in my opinion, I know comic books may do it differently. I don't really know about that stuff, but he's like the one that could just solve everything. So, I mean, like Justice League, killing him in Batman versus Superman and not having him around for just.
So he's bugged out now.
Now it's PJ's turn.
God damn
Oh
it.
man. By the way, 2 people in
And
the
like
audience
just
say that
kick
you might be-
Steppenwolf's ass. He does in a couple of minutes what they couldn't do collectively.
Oh, Braxton is interrupting to say that he thinks I'm incorrect. I may be incorrect. I may be incorrect. But
And yeah,
from
Ruben
what I
also says you're incorrect.
okay, so maybe I'm incorrect. Well, we'll have to look into actual analyses of powers and what have you. But yeah, it's okay. They
Yeah, stop
upgrade
watching those YouTube videos
they
that tell you 10
upgrade
things
they
that you didn't
upgrade
know. I'm
the
just kidding.
you know I never click on those. I hate them. I go around flagging top 10 videos. Um, yeah, it's like they keep on upgrading the superheroes every iteration of the comic, right? So it's like, oh, now Flash can do this, now Wonder Woman can do that.
Yeah, Wonder Woman can fly in some of the newer stuff, I believe. Like it's, but the way she gets it in this, I didn't quite understand.
She grapples a cloud at one point, doesn't she?
Yeah, is it momentum or is it like does she need the momentum and then she can fly? Like it's weird, like how they don't really.
It's like Mario. There's inertia. Once you move him, he keeps on moving for a bit. You know what I mean? So once she jumps, she just keeps on floating. She
I
uses the
did like
power of
when
love.
she grabs the lightning with her lasso. I like calling it a lasso instead of
The
a
lasso.
lasso. Yeah, I like lasso better. It's a cooler word.
I just want to say the
Um,
actual prop of this stone looks really not good.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It looked really cheap. The stone they
And
could
could we
have
have
they
just
could have bit
gotten
a
like
bit of stone.
could we have gotten like a flash? That's when we could have gotten a flashback to Mythos Theria or whatever it's called. Like, like it would have been cool if like that was
Wonder Woman land.
Wonder Woman land. I think that would have been a cool flashback where like because she seemed to be remembering what it was. It would have been great to get Auntie back and like be like, "This is the stone of wishes. Never use this stone." Like something cool like that. Like that would have been neat. It was created by the god whatever, and I didn't even understand what god it was. Did you guys catch the name of the god that created
No,
it?
all she says when they go to Maxwell, I think it's his office.
Lord. That's his name.
Maxwell Lord's
Max,
office.
Max Lord.
Maxwell Lord. She finds the ring on the table with like all the dust because the rock absorbed into him, I guess, and she sees only the bracelet with the, and she drops. She go, "This is the language of the gods," and she says,
The
"There are
power.
many gods who did different things for different reasons, and this particular one made this, and that's it."
It's basically Loki.
There,
the
there-
power-
there is
the
there is
power
an
of
explanation where they talk to that guy.
The rock turns into the dust.
It's basically Loki.
There is an exposition scene where they do talk to that guy and they talk about the Mayan civilization.
Yeah, we do.
How
I think this movie had so much potential. Again, I was so hyped for it, and even this conversation's making me more bummed about it. Like, I actually I just really wish part 3, which apparently is greenlit already, takes a whole different. I'm happy to do a reboot of Wonder Woman. So Wonder Woman 2024
no,
needs to be totally rebooted. I don't mind Gal Gadot still being in it.
did you say
but
2024?
I just made a joke.
That's
I
a
don't know.
good. That's actually if they're planning on releasing that in 2024, that's a great title for it.
Because it'll actually catch it up to modern times, which would be
Yeah.
great. Go.
Well,
There you go,
1984
Patty
1984, 40 years later.
Patty Jenkins, hire me. I'll help you. I suck at comic
By the way,
book stuff,
Patty
but
Jenkins is also directing a Star Wars movie that's set beyond Rise of Skywalker.
Rise of Skywalker. Well, in many ways,
She wants to move everything forward.
In
That's
many
good.
ways, Star Wars sequels
I have no problem
are
with that. Yeah.
have some of the same problems that this film did, but to a lesser degree. And so I think
It is a bit disturbing that this scale was so big in this story because essentially every film that we're gonna watch that happens like pre Justice League or whatever, they're all prequels to some certain extent. And so yeah, it is a really huge scale event that's happening before the Justice League actually forms and all of that. So I don't know, yeah,
And
But-
and
they could have scaled it down.
people are not forgetting what happened. Like this is a
For all the
world-changing event in the DCEU
For all
that they
the
don't
shit
ever
that,
mention.
for all the shit that Jessica Jones gets as a show, the Netflix Marvel series, the first season had what's his name, Purple Man, Purple Face,
Oh, David
David Tennant. Doctor Who was playing some sort of other character where he could,
that
yeah,
guy,
he could possess people's minds or like have them do things that he wanted to do. And
He was a great villain, by the way. He was one of the
Great.
best villains of that TV universe.
He was a great villain. The actor did a fantastic job. The conclusion of it was a bit disappointing, as is Jessica Jones as a show. I think
Yeah.
third season picked up a bit, but they could have made it smaller scale like that. They could have had this Pedro Pascal kind of character.
Should I watch Tenet?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Honestly. Anyway, yeah, they could have had it really smaller in scope and in scale, and not fall into this cringy nuclear vessels are popping up everywhere in the world. It was ridiculous to see like lights blips pop up on the maps. Like, we're not. I don't know. It was really old fashioned in the way it was done. Not to say
I thought
that
they were talking about Tennant, the movie. They were talking about David Tennant. So sorry, I was like in the audience. I was seeing some stuff about that. I think that like ultimately, like, smaller scale. I think we've been complaining a lot about this in movies for a long time now, and it seems funny that Hollywood still thinks you need to like destroy whole cities to up the stakes and like have all this massive cartoon destruction is what I'm calling it, because there are no repercussions from any of the destruction that occurs. I mean, this is a planet-wide thing, and like the only movie that this is kind of why I respect the Marvel Universe, is the only movie that kind of addresses this is that which one was that, the Avengers, the one with
Civil War that talks about the Sokovia Accords and everything.
yeah, and all that stuff. It's the closest we get to that, but they still manage to like destroy massive amounts of things, like, and have.
Because they talk about what happened in Age of
Right.
Ultron. They destroyed,
Right.
yes, Sokovia, the city or the country. I don't know.
Exactly.
It's all
But
made
like
up.
again, and like just say, keep blockbusters, make them special like they used to be. Like I want,
Oh,
when I'm gonna be introduced, when someone tells me it's a blockbuster, I want to be able to remember it for years. I want to put it on my DVD or Blu-ray collection, or now it's digital shelf or whatever.
Studios
And I
could
just
do
wanna,
one.
like,
They could do one blockbuster a year instead of having like 50. You know what I mean?
yeah,
They could
yeah.
do like smaller scale films that only cost 50 million or 25 million or whatever, and then release their one big 250 million film.
Did you
Yeah.
say CBS?
He
Warner
meant
Brothers.
Warner Brothers, I guess, but
No, film studios. I said.
film studios.
okay.
Studios
Yeah,
could.
this is Warner. Yeah.
Well, the recent news about the DC universe is that they're going to ramp it up big time. They're
Wow.
Walter Hamada is
We're all
talked
so
about
happy.
how they're going to have 4 big theatrical DC films a year.
No one cares.
Some set in the DCU, but they're gonna expand the multiverse of the DCU, in which you will have like different iterations of Batman, say, on screen. So in a couple of years, you will actually have in theaters movies with 3 different iterations of Batman on screen, and in the Marvel side, different iterations of Spider-Man, live action now.
Okay, we all
On top of that,
but
they're going to take the DCEU films and spin them off into TV shows on HBO Max, just like what Disney is doing with the MCU. Now, isn't that they're making an Amazon TV series based off Wonder Woman and all this stuff? It's like crazy.
Really?
They're ramping it up, baby. They're ramping it up
Okay.
big time. So this smaller scale thing that you're talking about, totally opposite
Not
direction.
gonna
You're going
happen.
Yeah. Well,
Well, that's why TV's winning. Sad to say, that's why like regular like TV shows. It's the golden age of television.
I would
or
argue that
something, that's
TV's
why
doing the same thing. Like we
But it's
we watch
doing it.
Perfect
But the
Plot
payoff's
and-
better because you have it spread over like 15 episodes.
guess,
So you're
yeah.
feeling more of a payoff and a more of a balance. And
Eight-
then, go ahead. Sorry.
I'm sorry, but HBO Max TV shows based off of the bigger movies could actually probably be better, because you do have a big budget, but you're actually limited. Like WandaVision could explore elements of those characters the movies could never go into. You have like long form comic book storytelling that you can do now with spin-offs of bigger movies. Like even the separate Robert Pattinson Batman universe, which is a thing upon itself, already has its own spin-off on HBO Max. On top of the DCEU, which is another universe, having their own spin-offs. So like we're going to get to a point where it's just going to be like saturated as hell with sci-fi comic book stuff. People were talking about like comic book fatigue a couple of years ago. No, just wait until the late
Well,
20s when we're all just like,
it'll
F this
collapse
stuff.
in on itself eventually.
Yeah, eventually.
Even though you
they
fed a
become-
monster for a decade and it's only getting hungrier. And
I
it
like
seems
I like
from
that.
what you're saying, it's
I
true.
like that, but there comes a point where like we all try to watch as much as we can in the sense that like not only we're interested in seeing it, but it's also nice to like be able to discuss it, talk about it. But there comes a point where it's just like I have a life, I have a limited amount of time that I can like I don't live, I can't pine for 65 years, right? So I gotta choose what I watch, and there comes a point where I'm not gonna start watching 50 bloody DCE. I might just quit the DCEU altogether because I would rather watch my Star Trek and my Marvel than my DC. And this kind of movie, it's not the worst thing that's ever been put out, but Wonder Woman 1984 is not getting me sold on your universe. Sadly.
It's a big continuity stain in the actual universe. They could mention in a future movie, like they could mention like the big wish thing that happened. I don't know what would
The
they
Wish
call
Wars.
it? The Wish Wars. Yeah.
Oh my
Very
goodness.
weird.
All right, I'm
But-
gonna throw this up on screen.
One
we're gonna-
last thing I want to say about Wonder Woman before we rate it is that one thing I did appreciate was getting Linda Carter in the post credits sequence, and
was
also a
nice.
little camp. Even though you couldn't tell it was her, and I kind of felt it was her in the original, in the film during the scene, because I just was like, oh, that's got to be Linda Carter. You do get it confirmed in the post credits, but I would have liked her to have a bigger role. Maybe she'll have a bigger role in part 3.
She definitely should be in part 3. And by the way, Patty Jenkins strongly hinted that Kristen Wiig will be back as Cheetah.
Interesting.
Somehow.
Very
She'll be 80 years old, but somehow.
No, she doesn't age anymore. Oh wait a minute.
Well, she's probably human
She's
now
not
because
Cheetah anymore.
She never renounced her powers technically, so I don't. She never renounced her wish technically.
If she never
as far as I
renounced her
can tell.
wish, then she has to. The plot relies on the fact that everyone did.
That's the thing, I guess. I don't know.
It's a
You're right.
pirate. It's a Pirates of the Caribbean situation. where
it's so
nothing
wishy-washy.
makes sense. All right, I'm gonna throw this up on screen.
All right, it's time for us to do this. I love
Boom.
this part.
Okay. What I put it on flat average on my review. What do you guys think?
I'm actually gonna go lower because of this discussion and give it
Oh,
below
no.
average.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I'll go one notch down.
I'll give it a mediocre because
Ooh.
there are elements that I can go back and watch, just like certain scenes, but as a movie, I just can't do it.
Okay.
Yeah, like it has such little nuggets.
Mediocre.
But yeah, you can't just watch the movie over and over for those nuggets. It's true.
Yeah.
What
All right.
did you think, audience? Does the audience get to tell us what they thought? I
Audience.
mean, we already know what Ruben hasn't
Yeah.
even seen.
Audience,
so.
chime in. Tell us what you think.
On the scale, though, you got to tell us.
Ruben
Put the
has
scale.
Ruben hasn't seen it.
Yes,
Ruben
he's not
hasn't
allowed.
seen it,
Whatever he says
but
doesn't
he still
count.
gives it a bullshit. That's how Ruben works.
I like
Anyways,
this. I
is
like
a-
this scale, by the way. It's good.
Yeah,
It goes
it's really
from
fun.
there's 11 pegs on it technically, but it goes from 0 to 10. It's because I don't go from 1 to 10. The absolute bullshit is a 0, right? It's like a big fat crap.
We use this scale on we used this scale on Drunk
Space
Space
Nine?
9 for a while, so we tested it there and it worked really well. But I could never remember to use it.
I think it was disappointing. Robbie says below average. Yeah,
All
all
right.
right. So I went high with my average. Hey, look, I think maybe I don't know. It does it. In contrast to the rest of the DCEU films, I think it's really not as bad as
One-
DCEU can get.
Wonder Woman has a lot of potential, and I really enjoy again the character. Gal Gadot just like fits the part. I know, it's just they just need, yeah. Never mind. We've said all that.
All right. Okay. I think that's enough. We've discussed this. There are other topics and other themes to explore, I guess, but do we really care?
What are we going to talk about next? I like this.
I don't
channel.
know.
This
What should we
sounds
talk about?
exciting.
What should we talk about next? I don't know if you guys have seen Soul. I think Soul.
Yes.
Soul was a win. We could talk about Soul.
Soul's awesome. I would love to talk about Soul.
All right,
I'll
we'll do
watch it
that.
again just
We'll-
to talk about
We'll come
it too,
back
actually.
and we'll do a Soul discussion.
And
Awesome.
Denzel Washington's The Little Things is coming out next month, I think, with Jared Leto and
Ooh.
somebody else.
But we won't talk about Tenet. Fuck Tenet.
No.
I have
that.
no desire. This is the first Christopher Nolan movie where I'm just like, no, I'm not interested.
You're right. You're correct. All right. Thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you everybody for watching and for commenting along. Thank you, Ruben, for bringing your hot takes of things that you have not seen. Um, thank you, Robbie, for putting up with them.
Robbie and Ruben were great.
Robbie and
Ours.
Ruben.
And also Braxton's been here listening the
Yes,
whole time.
he
I
has.
imagine he was working out. And Braxton, I'm sorry we didn't talk about that scene too much, but or that concept too much. But I think we all are
It's
uncomfortable.
okay. It was a bit strange. I'm gonna be honest
Yeah.
though, and well, I'm gonna finish on this. While I was watching the movie, I did not think about. I didn't give it a second thought that Chris Pine was inhabiting. Steve Trevor was inhabiting the body of someone else. I just kind of glossed over it, and I don't know if that's. I feel bad about that now. I feel legitimately bad about the fact that I just accepted the situation as it was.
You could have a whole discussion just about it. My lawyer told me not to talk about it, so I'm not going to.
All right, guys. See you next time. Thank you so much for
See ya.
watching. Thank you guys
Yeah.
for being with me.